Okay, so I did get a little, a little bit gleeful, I guess, maybe a little too fast, and hadn't noticed that these two spot welds and one further down the radiator core support had actually hung on and were not loose like I thought they were. And when I was trying to move the panel in and out to get it out of the way, these actually stuck. So I've got to go in now with a hammer and dolly and clean all of my mess stakes up. Should be okay and fairly easy to do, but it's not a lot of fun because now I have additional work to do here that if I had been real careful and kept in mind on what I was doing instead of trying to get done, wouldn't have these. So there you go. Something, I'll show you when I screw up, and I screwed up here. All right, moving on. I'm going to now go and get some hammer and dolly, and I'll take and fix this up right now. What I'm about to show you, I don't even know if I'm doing this right. This is just what I do. Sometimes everything is a tool, including the user. I'm striking left-handed and I'm not left-handed, so. Like I said, normally this would not have any of these holes showing. I just wouldn't do that. All right, now the next thing is just to clean up all the holes to get some of the stray metal off of here. Then I'll have to start working the panel, the other panels on the piece. All right, this is the inner fender apron that we got from the guys at National Parts Depot. I'm going to talk about this for just a second because I think this is pretty important. Please understand that right now in the market there are only two inner fender aprons for 67, 68 Mustang. This being the import, the other one is a piece that comes from inside the United States. And at this stage in the game, because of the age of the stamping dies for the one from the United States, this is actually the preferred piece, according to what I read in the National Parts Depot catalog. We ordered this one. This one is not what I would like to see. But it is the only thing available out there in the market. I would love to see somebody come back in at this stage and actually redo this part in a more modern 3D scanned example from an original, because it's just not quite what I want to run. But it's what's available, and that's kind of what you end up having to do sometimes in these instances. And it's $42. It's not real expensive, so you are going to have to do some mucking around in order to make this thing run in here the way you want it to run in here. That being said, I'm going to show you some of the things I'm going to do to this to make it work better in here. There's some stuff going on right here on the back side of this that you can't see right now that I'm going to have to work in order to get this to fit. And I'm going to go through the whole process of measuring and setting to put this in here, just so you guys can see how all that works, because you do have some stable points on the Mustang that you can do this with. So let's get rolling on that. All right, so what I've got is a setup where I've put this new battery apron in, and I want to get a measure, and I want to be a consistent measure across the front. Your radiator core support should be perfectly perpendicular to the body. So I'm going to go up here and set a measure and go down to the hole in the radiator core support. You don't want to measure to the apron, you want to measure to the radiator core support. We are at 39 inches on this side. Actually, we're a little bit between 39 and 1/16 over here. And with the setup I'm running right now, we are at, on the outside edge again, just a little bit over 39 1/16 on this side. Now, with Ford, you could have as much as 1/8 of an inch of difference on any of these measurements. You could do that. The combined, I've heard sometimes, is as much as 1/2 an inch. Because of all the body slop and what they did putting these cars together, there's enough slop in all of the system to be able to take that up. All right, so I'm not going to do anything with welding this up until I get a decent fit. That's just the way you have to do with one of these panels that's been around for a minute and not a new piece out there in the market. I have a hard interference right about here between this upper piece of metal and the base original metal on the shock tower. So I'm going to have to go in and investigate this in just a second to see what we've got going on and what I'm going to have to do to get this panel here to fit more flush. Because right now, it may look like it on a camera, but it is gapping pretty hard, probably about 1/8 of an inch of a gap on that top edge because of what's going on out here with the underlying metal. So that's where we're headed. All right, so here's where the fit and fiddle starts coming into play. Now you'll notice that there is a tightness right here. I can get my fingernail way up underneath this, but it's also a little tight out here on this outside edge. It's loose back here at this junction here. This is never going to be super tight though, because your inner sheet metal for the shock tower is basically on top of this piece here. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to take this section out here and probably tweak it down a little bit, and I'm going to have to take this corner here and pull it in a little bit, probably using my smaller vice grips like some of these up here on top to be able to get that to roll in the way I need it. We're getting this to fit, and it's going to work out okay, but for right now, you can see we've got tons of space right here, all the way down here. I can almost get a full finger in between the metal. It's how this kind of stuff works. It's usually a little more fit and fiddle than you like to think. Even on the assembly line, I have to believe there was probably a little bit of fit and fiddle. So now I'm going to get in there and get busy on that and work through this and see what we got. Yeah, you see how that relaxed out? So what I'm going to probably do is undo all of this stuff here and move this panel out and then start working this underneath to get it to where I need it to be. By the way, if you're going to be doing some of this stuff, do yourself a favor and get yourself a bunch of locking pliers, especially these long reach pliers like this one here. This kind is really good. You can get these at Harbor Freight pretty inexpensively. They're not going to be doing a lot of hardcore mean work, so to speak, so you can get the cheap ones from Harbor Freight and they work out fine. I'll set all my locking pliers down here for now. And I'm going to pull the core support or the battery tray area out. And here's where I'm going to be working next. Now this car did take a strike, I think, at some point in its life on the front, so some of this could be a problem from that. This doesn't look like that's the case though. So what I want to do for firsts is I'm going to take this section out here and do a mild bend down on it. And I'm going to grab another pair of locking pliers and kind of put these over here. Bend that down just a little bit. Now, I'll try to get that on that angle a little bit. And I think possibly roll that edge a little bit as well. Again, fit and fiddle. That's fitting a little bit better at the back. We're still tight right in that corner. This is now loose, and I can bring that in whenever I'm doing my final fit up. I'm going to reduce this down just a little bit more. I'm going to do a push-pull, pliers here. Let's drop that edge a little bit. I don't know if you can see this, but the rear edge of this panel is actually rolled up this way a little bit. It's going to make it kind of interesting to try to get those two to fit. I'm going to probably take the under panel here and roll this whole panel down some just so I can get that back edge to sit nice. And that's the problem with using like 3 different brands of locking pliers. I can never remember which way they go. All right, now this is going to be a little different from what I've been doing. I'm going to take my a couple flats. I have to probably hammer work that. I'm going for a basic fit right now. That's about as good as we're going to get. Now I've got to go in. Now I'm going to go ahead and work these edges flat because this curve right here is actually crowning out. On the original panel, this was actually a curve cut across here and not a curve like that. Whee! All right, I think that's kind of where I want it to be. I'm now going to do another clamp up to see what we got. And what I'm doing is I'm making sure this hole is centered side to side. I'm not as worried about it front to back because we have a little bit of a misfit, but I have seen that happen on original panels where they're going to be like that just a tad. Also want to make sure I'm covering up my holes down here on the bottom. Which I am. Again, this is just a test fit. This isn't for final. Because I am going to have to change some of this stuff. Now that is fitting a lot better than it was. I'm going to have to use some of the long reach pliers to get this to lay in better up here in the top part of the panel. But if you can see that, it's actually looking pretty darn good up top. A little bit floppy in the front corner. Again, this is where the long reach locking pliers really come into play. Now I'm going to do a measure front to rear. Remember, we're trying to maintain that 39 1/16 from that back hole. Yeah, spot on. Sensational. Okay, so that's pretty much right about where I want to be. Now I'm going to start going in and trying to figure out how to lock this thing into position for my spot welding. When I'm spot welding on these things, I want to make sure that the metal is tight, top and bottom. I'm going to now go through and mark my holes on this panel with the EDP on it so that I can just go in and clean up those spots. Use my ratty paint pen. And be careful not to fill in or mark the holes. This panel doesn't have the holes in it for the inside plate here, for the bump plate. So you have to be real careful when you're doing this and think about what you're doing when you're marking it up. You don't want to, you don't want to fill up one of your holes that you need for that plate. Yeah, see, these are really close to the panel now. This is looking pretty good. A little bit off on this one in the bottom. I don't know if I can get to it with this one down here. I'm going to have to do something a little different down on the bottom, and I need to set those. I'm going to go ahead and mark these up. Yeah, see, there's not even enough metal there on the plate itself. I may have to move this over just a hair in order to get good fill here, because we're kind of off on the edge just a little bit. Try to pull this in. Not great, but okay. Actually, that's pretty good. I'll buy that for $1. What I'm doing now is I'm going through and I'm checking all of my spot weld points to see if they're flat enough. This panel has seen a hit in the past. And we'll have another test fit now. This hole always gets set up first. That is roughly where it was at before. You can see the line in the new sheet metal there. Just going to set that there. I don't know if that's the right spot or not. When you're going over lips, these type of locking pliers right here are really good because they can round that lip and actually lay the metal in position. Actually liking the way that's fitting. All right, so you might wonder why I have X's on these 3 holes. When I've got my helmet on and I'm welding, sometimes it's really hard for me to be able to see, even with good light, which are which. These X's let me know when I'm in here welding that those are not spot weld points. Those are actually where the holes need to go for the bump stop apron right here. This is looking pretty good. Position wise, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm gonna try getting these to set up and line up. This is where one more of these would be good, and I do not have that. Because I will need the long reach to go for the lower apron. All right, so a little sidebar for you. That's what this little thing down in the bottom that says sidebar is all about. I want to talk to you a little bit about refinishing these panels and what Ford did and what a lot of people do, and then what I'm thinking about doing, or what I would do. I'm going to do this the way everybody says to do it, to go in and paint the original sheet metal after I've ground everything down and pulled the old panel off, put in some POR 15, and then go and re-drill all my holes so that there's no paint inside where I'm going to put the rosettes. That's what I'm going to do. But I've had a thought, and I want to know what you guys think. I want you to leave some comments in the section below if you've made it this far, and answer my question about what I'm thinking about doing in the future. When Ford originally did these things, they did not put anything on there. The cars were completely assembled in bare metal, and then they squirted primer on it, and they were done. They didn't even dip these cars like they're doing now. These cars were all just sprayed by a bunch of guys in a room. These cars are like they are and have been like they are since 1967, and there's not a ton of rust between the panels that are put together for some reason. Don't know why. So Ford didn't think it was that big a deal to have every panel painted. Makes me wonder if we're just basically spending good money after bad to put paint down. You body guys that are out there, let me know what you think about that. One thought that I had is that after the fact, I would like to go in, possibly if I can get some oil in between the 2 pieces of sheet metal, like say a Gibbs oil, and spray those sandwiched pieces of metal together with Gibbs oil. Gibbs oil is pretty good because Gibbs oil doesn't have a problem with paint itself. You can paint over it. You'll want to obviously clean it up with a pre-cleaner, but you don't have to worry about it fisheyeing the paint because there's oil residue within the metal. Those areas underneath there then would have oil on them, theoretically, and you should be good to go for it not rusting for the next 50 years. Never mind what the stuff that Ford did is going to do to you in the next 50 years. But your one panel, it should be fine. So there's my controversial sidebar right there. Tell me what you think in the comments below about what I was just talking about. Ford's original idea, don't worry about it. Everybody's idea now, worry about it and put some paint in there. My idea, do it like Ford did it, but put some Gibbs oil in between. Let me know what you think. All right, final measure. We've got everything clamped in. Measure right before you go to weld. It's a lot easier to measure than it is to cut welds out. 39 1/16. I'll take that for $1 because that's exactly the measure we want. Now, I'm going to get in here and I am going to finish up my clamping. Now, Desperate times call for desperate measures. You can do what I've done here with these C-clamps. I don't recommend it, but it is a way to solve your problem. To get flat metal in here, so you got a good weld point. Everything else is staying put so far. I'm going to have to go in here and reclamp these areas in, because like right now, this one has pulled away from the wall. And I'm going to want to remeasure again to make sure we're good still. Hand me the tape measure. Jackson's stepping in. Yeah, see, when I did that, it moved out to 39 1/4. So I want to go the other way with it. It needs to come out some and down. This is why I don't like using those kind of clamps right there. Now what's happening now is it's starting to expose holes on the bottom when I'm moving it out to the 39. I may be out a little bit too much here. Okay, going the wrong way. Okay, we're now correct. We're at 39 1/16. We're good and tight to the wall. I'm a little worried about some of my spots down here on the wall because some of these aren't even mating up, so I'm going to have to probably rework that. Possibly, I may be able to get that bottom section to push in some here in a second. But we are now where we need to be. So what happens whenever you start clamping all this stuff together? We're still 39 1/16 at the top. And I might be able to get that bottom to pull in, but probably not enough. I'm going to go ahead and reclamp this. Now the bad thing about using these type of clamps is that they can leave indentions on the sheet metal. So you want to keep in mind of that when you're doing this. I'm going to see if I can push that bottom in a little bit. It's going to be a tough sell though. No, it's not going anywhere. And we are out a pretty good bit. This hole also bothers me a little bit. I think this is for disc brake applications. But if they left these out, why did they put that one in? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some tack welds down first. If I need to, I can go in and grind these out. I'm going to put one down here in this corner because this hole over here is now exposed and I don't have a way to do that. That was just me guessing, and that's what happens when you guess a lot of times. You run into this kind of issue. Anyhow, I'm going to put a tack weld in that corner. I'm going to put a tack weld right here on this piece part of the panel. And I'm going to put another tack weld up on top of the panel up here. And I'm going to try and tack underneath here. It's going to be really hard for me to see what I'm doing with that, but I'm going to give it my best shot. So anyway, first one I'm going to do is this one right here. sizzling paint. Okay. Now what that's going to do theoretically is give me the ability to go in and pull some of these clamps out and move them around in order to get to where I need to be. I'll do this last one on the top. This is going to need to stay in place because I've got more welds to do in here, but this I can then move over to that spot in order to keep it clamped tight. This one I can remove. I couldn't see it, but I don't think it moved. I'm actually going to do a hard weld into this one now. We're pretty much committed. I don't think we need to go anywhere else with any of this. Now basically I'm just moving down the panel here. Well, that's awesome. My shield didn't darken. Not sure why it's not doing what I want it to do. Probably not going to be able to see a lot of my weld on this, but let's face it, that's not much to look at anyway. Again with the not dimming. still not dimming.
All right, my helmet is malfunctioning, so I'm going to stop right here. You guys have been shown everything you need to see in order to put a battery tray apron in one of these cars. And I'm going to talk about something that's kind of cool though. NPD is now stocking kits to give you the battery tray, hold down, bolt kit, and the actual bolts that hold the battery in place for the Group 24F batteries. Kind of neat that you can buy just a kit now and don't have to try to scramble to get everything pulled together. So it's a good thing to check into with them on whatever you're working on if you're doing a battery tray apron. See if they have the kit for your car, rock that thing into place, and then you don't have to worry about ordering like 5, 6, 7 different parts in order to get what you need. And that's really it. That's all we've got going on with this week. We've got the battery tray apron in so we can X that one thing off the list on our list over there on the table and continue moving forward. Next up is going to be putting in the new booster assembly in here to get rid of the one that's running into the shock tower in this car, and we're going to get rid of all that stuff and make that a nicer looking situation. Do me a favor, be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Autorestomod. Cam is not here because his truck is broke. He is very sad because it has rained. He is not happy. I didn't want a big, red, grumpy human being here when he wants to be somewhere else. So he has to stick out today. He is out today. There you go. So, see ya.